10,000 miles.
Ah,
All right, here we are.
but we did it.
10,000
Joe did it.
It's only 5:20.
We made it. Oh boy. Well,
All right, Joe, tell us when you start recording.
I started recording already.
Oh my God!
dear.
Did you get my colorful language?
Yep.
Oh dear.
It's all documented.
All right, today we are a three-way podcast. After much tribulation, we are here. Tribulation, get it? Three-way. Anyway, we are going to do a three-way podcast on The Bee Sting by Paul Murray. This is our May podcast. Mariana chose the book. I apologize right now.
Apologize? Oh, what do you mean? What for?
Okay, so last month we did The Glass Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
And that my complaint about that book was all these multiple point of view and the intermingling and the coming and going and the lack of progress, just the spinning on their backs. And I have the same complaint about this. We have multiple points of view again, but we have even less progress in this book. And I had a real problem with it. I had to reread the ending today to remember how it ended. And I'm, are we still sure? That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
this story
yep.
is located in Ireland, modern day Ireland, a small farming town, extremely insular, very, very close knit. Everybody knows everybody else's business. Everybody judges everybody else. Everybody gossips about everybody else. It's like high school.
Yeah. I'll say just quickly, I liked this one a lot. I thought this was awesome. Although I am still kind of traumatized by it. That if you want to have the good memories of Ireland, I guess the potato famine were the good times, and this was the terrible times. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting. It reminded me of our first podcast. It was Faulkner-esque. Maybe just very first.
Oh my God!
First
in the
person.
dimensions of the tragedy. Good Lord.
Yep.
Oh my
Lots of
God.
review of the same events, but from different perspectives, and lots of time travel. Sympathy reversals where someone you don't like, you kind of like them, and okay, everybody's just a struggling Irish human with centuries
Their
of hardship
feet
in their DNA, I
firmly
guess.
stuck in the mud without making any progress. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's the story of one family, one family of four. The husband the husband father figure is called Dickie Baines.
Well, wait. Let's hear. Let's introduce special guest.
So
returning
sorry.
champion, scholar Margie. What did you think about this book?
Well, I'm with you, Joe. I loved this book. But my entire book club is with Mariana. They all hated the book. They didn't like the people. They weren't interested in the story. It was horrible. And it was too long. But what I liked about it is that, well, first I read it on Kindle and I listened to it on Audible, which is a big help. So the Irish brogue was wonderful for me. It reminded me of, there's a little trace of that still. And, my mother and our aunts, just a little bit. So I like the fact it was set in England. I like the fact that it was a deep dive into the personalities of these people. And you're right. When you first see each person, it's like, what a pill. Can't stand her. He's a jerk. Mm-hmm. But then it goes back and it goes, oh, I get it. Okay. He was never loved. She was, Imelda was beautiful, but insecure because beauty does that to people. You don't get any credit for being a good person. You get things automatically. It's a whole other theory I have. But I thought it was so fascinating. And I can't remember, it's such a big book. I think the author revealed their character by their own thoughts and their own words. I don't think the author ever said she was like that or he was like that. I mean, it was pretty much a lot of thoughts and dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was kind of interesting. And it was okay to go back in time in this case because they're revealing, like you would meet someone. The first impression is one thing, but if you actually got to know their background, you'd be more sympathetic.
All true.
What I did not like about the book, no proper grammar and punctuation.
Ooh.
That drives me crazy. It's so arrogant. It's so, who do you think you are? You know, there are protocols and there are rules of communicating. So I didn't like that at all.
I didn't even notice that. I have to say, I think that
there's no quotation marks. There are very few punctuation marks.
Really,
so it was distracting for me.
Yeah.
And I didn't like I liked the whole book except for the last 10 words, which I also had to reread.
So, yeah.
But I'm still thinking about the damn book, so it must have been good. I'm still thinking about the ending, and I have a question for you guys later.
Okay, the damn book. Good. Really loved it. Yeah.
All right. Whoa, lots of emotions there. So yeah, whoa. Okay, so wait. So I thought it was Faulkner-esque. I'm gonna throw that word again, but there was another. Yeah, it was Glass Hotel-ish, because multiple perspectives. Another astute point by me, if I may say. And then there was,
if you may say
also,
so.
Also, the Japanese book, what the hell is that called? The story of a time.
The Seattle one. Mm-hmm.
Tale for the Time Being.
Yeah, that also. I hated that the teenage girl, and then from Margie's lesson last time, you teenagers are super selfish and just dipshits. So just be like, all right. So I was more nice to the teenagers in this book. So, yep, a triple astute comment by me.
One for each of us. How generous.
Yep, I thought I'd put that right at the start.
You're not going to say anything about how Dickensian Imelda's upbringing was? Good Lord.
Oh, well, that's a thing, yeah. I want to imagine the prior generation all wearing suspenders and like those like newsy hats, and it's a totally different time, but really it's just the 1980s. And
I know.
I had to resist that because it's, they talk about, I had to imagine, okay, they're driving around in cars. It's not like Prohibition era Model Ts driving around. So
yeah, they've got iPhones.
Yeah, they got smartphones, and yeah, I had to resist that. It was not Dickensian. These are just regular people, even almost in the 70s and 80s, I guess. That's where I had to keep remembering.
Well, it's modern day. It's because one of the key. So I think we need a little bit of groundwork here first. So it focuses on this one family: mother, father, 2 children, teenage daughter, and little boy. Even though his age is never given, it's unclear, but he's preteen at least. The father's name is Dickie Barnes, and he is the older son of Morris and I forget his mother's name, but his father established and was successful in a car dealership and garage. And he went off to Trinity University he was a scholarly type, but his younger brother, Frank, was a footballer, star of the whole town, and means he had the burden of the whole town to be a great footballer. Dickie marries Imelda, and she is this beauty who comes from this horrific background of this father who's a drunkard and a gambler and routinely beats his sons, and the sons turn to gangs, and she almost gets raped in revenge for another group of brothers that were cheated by her brothers. And they have 2 children, Cass, who's plagued with eczema. Why does the character have to have this flaw? I don't know. Who's best friends with Elaine, and Cass's little brother, PJ, who is the most sympathetic character. Well, not really, not by the end, but throughout, he's the most sympathetic character, who's a little boy interested in science, but also trying to be invisible throughout so that he's not sent away to boarding school. He's the most pathetic of the 4 characters, I found. And it is their sort of downward spiral because of financial setbacks of the garage that Dickie is in charge of, and how this causes the demolition of their family.
Yeah, like I think even the economic trouble is the 2008 crash is what rips through the Europe and just destroys their town, because the car dealership is such a mainstay or something. And
the mother and daughter are obsessed with their status, their economic status throughout the book.
That was shocking to me in the book, that the daughter, Cass, felt that she was going to suffer from the financial difficulties that her family were having. I found that shocking. Again, sort of out of time, because like Joe, I had difficulty remembering that this was modern day.
Yeah. But as, I guess, teenage girls, I don't think we were ever that extreme, but it was very important to her that this Elaine be her friend. And Elaine, ironically, liked her mother and not her, because her mother was beautiful. But, it was all intertwined, right? Because
totally
Big
intertwined.
Mike becomes the character. Wait, who was Big Mike? Oh, Big Mike was Elaine's father, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And glad hand, sort of empty suit kind of guy. But, as the garage dealership is failing, Morris, the father figure, wants to bring Big Mike in to sort of rescue things because Dickie had so, quote, mismanaged. But we do find the secret to the mismanagement, which is he was being blackmailed for a homosexual affair.
There was so much in the book. I mean, there were just so many different characters. And some of them we found out, some of them became integral to the plot. Others didn't, like the teacher. There was a whole section on the teacher, then she sort of vanished.
Yeah, so one of my questions is, why does he open with the adolescents? Why does he open with, well, first of all, the first sentence is about a murder-suicide that a husband committed, locked his family in his house, killed them all, and then killed himself. Now that's prophetic, of course. And then the first section of the book, part 1, is devoted to Cass and her adolescent insecurities and fears and girl crush on her friend Elaine. Why open with that? I found that rather curious, because as I read that, I sort of thought, oh my God, not a coming of age by a teenager.
I know.
It's just boring. And
I know.
I thought that was because, it starts off with, there's a murder suicide in the neighborhood, and oh my God, it's horrible. And then someone says, hey, I get it. Or something like that. That's just like the light comment. And
it's Elaine. She says, I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often.
Yeah, and I actually remembered that when I actually watched an interview with this writer on YouTube, and they were saying about, like, this is so great. Like, how did you get into dark comedy? And I was like, comedy? This is a comedy book? What are you talking about? But then I remembered, like, that, I guess that is the kind of the joke that, hardship is life, but at least we're not that. We're still in it. The teacher was about, she was just a good-hearted person who loved her students. And then one chapter ended with she took care of her mother, but then the mother fell after slipping on a guava. She got big money and then painted her house the color of a guava, and I'm like, okay. That's you mean the poetry teacher? Oh yeah, the poetry teacher too. Yeah, that is Yeah, I don't know. I forgot about that. That
Well,
was a
they
lot
were
of
digging up
emphasis.
dirt on her, and then this the storyline just kind of vanished.
It did
just
vanish. It
stopped.
just she was
Yeah.
a substitute and then she was gone. Yeah, it was really why was so much time devoted to her? I don't
Yeah.
understand that. And especially when it's kind of a red herring in this whole
Yeah.
thing.
Well, my rationalization for that, because I wanted to like the book anyway, after I decided I liked it, that's how life is. People come into your life and leave your life, and you don't ever know whatever happened. And then you may have been close, they may have been interesting, and then this whole book for me is like shit happens. Life. There is no resolution sometimes to life's troubles.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd like to think there is, but this thing just left us high and dry.
Totally.
And I have
that's
two
how
burning
books
questions.
Oh, that's how books now are, it seems. There's always a lack of resolution and you just kind of soldier on if you don't kill your entire family and
Yeah.
hope for the best.
What
Yeah.
about how? So, but in the last chapter, Cassandra's bright point is that she still writes poetry, and she got a poem into the local magazine, and maybe that's another
Yeah.
joke that everybody is literally like grasping for the thing that will pull them out of their horrible situation, and it just keeps getting yanked away like the football from Charlie Brown. Like, yeah, come get it. Yep. Up. Nope. You screwed up again.
Yeah, it is full of missteps, miscalculations, and missed opportunities. Absolutely. They are all running.
But then, like, Cass maybe even doesn't even remember that teacher, but that influence has, permeated her. Like, oh, that teacher, that was significant. And she screwed her up because she had bought the book or something that the teacher made and saw it was kind of inappropriate or something, and then left it for the administration. Like, did you know this teacher did? And then I think it's implied she was fired for being too scandalous or something. So
Yeah, I think so.
So the teacher thought she was making a good impact, and it turns out she did, but then she gets like kind of fired for it by her own good student.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's how the sabotage happens that, you're not even aware of. And self-sabotage or sabotage by others. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And to me, the book was, I mean, people have said life is all about relationships. They're all looking for relationships, the right relationship. Cass tried to get with Elaine so bad. Then she ended up having a relationship with this nerdy girl right at the end.
Right.
She had another, and poor Dickie, he was a mess all the way around, trying to do the right thing. A lot of times people that are, in trouble or uncomfortable, that they end up trying to be super good, like going to the priesthood. And he was trying to do the right thing. So he was messed up. And, the wife, I have some questions. I have two burning questions.
Okay. Burn away.
The first was, what do you think happened at the end?
I think he kills his children.
Oh,
Are you sure about that?
No, I'm not, because the book ends. But
He could have killed.
They are all converging on the
They
forest.
are. And
They're
that was
all
so
coming
frustrating.
together.
Because they all had figured it out. Okay, it's going to be okay. We're going to do this. This can be good. But he could have killed them. He could have killed himself. He could have killed the blackmailer. He could have killed the survivalist. I mean, there's any number of people. Or the gun could have just gone off and he missed. So
I don't
think we can say what happened.
I would say that he didn't, because he's so in, conflicted. Like, can I even do this? Am I this type of person? Am I going to kill someone? And so I think that, to kill, there has to be a certain, I don't know, commitment, I guess. Like, he wants to just continue paying. Anything is better than this. Like, I'll just keep putting up with it. Who knows if this will even solve it? I think he doesn't. And even if he does it by accident, if it just, oh, I'm going to pull this trigger. The guy says, like, I bought this gun on the dark web and put it together myself.
Yeah, was he even a good shot?
Yeah, it's like kind of a random, okay, this is a gun, I guess.
Yeah.
And
The it's up to us to draw our own ending.
Okay, so let's look at the last few pages. So PJ stops and turns to you. This is so then, as these segments get smaller and smaller as the crisis approaches, that whirlwind, I thought that was an interesting writing technique, I have to
Yeah.
say. Even though I didn't like it at the time, it was an interesting. Okay, so Cass says PJ stops, or from Cass's point of view, PJ stops and turns to you, arms down by his side, eyes round, and whispers, "I'm sorry I made you miss your party." Dickie, the world is how it is. That's not your fault. You can only think about your family. Do your best to protect them from the worst of it. And when the world breaks through, make sure they don't suffer. Imelda, put his hands, on your belly, and tell him again, this is the world now. It will be how we make it. Dickie, there's 2 of them.
Oh,
So where are there 2 of them? Only
the
the
2
kids.
kids. Yeah, true.
Do you see? Yes, you see their torches flash in and out through the thickets, but you remain calm. You have never felt so calm. Cass, whisper back to him, "I'm glad you did. I'm glad I found you," she says to PJ. Dickie, kneel down, resting your elbow on your thigh, the gun to your shoulder. Remind yourself why you are doing this. PJ, a click from somewhere. So maybe a misfire.
Oh,
A glint of light. But maybe the flash of a fire. Imelda, it's not too late. We can start again. Cass, gray squirrel, you cry and you grab your brother's hand. Last line on the last page, it is for love. Whoops. You are doing this for love. And he is so full of missteps every other portion, every other step of his life. Why should this go right?
yeah.
Why would this go wrong to go right, or go right to go wrong?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear he killed the 2. Well, there's one flash, one shot. And then, the gray squirrel, you have to eliminate the gray squirrels that whole gray squirrel, red squirrel thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of that
I know.
survivalist.
That
Here's this survivalist. These guys go to this shed in the forest, right? And so I don't know how much land these people have. Substantial amount of land here, thanks to the father. They go to this shed. So this is a shed for teenagers to hang out, for PJ to sort of escape and get away from what he, considers trying to keep himself invisible, for that predator Richard, who I think is the mechanic in the Polish mechanic in the dealership, and for this survivalist, and for Dickie to get away from the house and get away from, the financial difficulties of the garage. So this meeting point of this shed, and this survivalist is the only one that Dickie sort of listens to. And what does he do? He builds a well, and the well turns out to be poison. I mean, It's perfect.
Wait, why was the well poison?
Because he used the wrong mud or something like that surrounding it.
It had E. coli bacteria in it, and but yeah, it's that's pretty.
And that was a side event too. That whole survival thing. I mean, it was just a premise for him to get the gun, but other than that, it was kind of meaningless.
And they're all, except that they're all trying to survive. I mean, they're all
True.
Trying to find their own ways to survive, whether it's
True.
Imelda manipulating every man in her life, or PJ trying to be invisible, or Cass trying to be such a bully, or drinking. It's all, it's just this horrible existence where these people are, fighting each other in this locked house where they're all committing, getting killed and suicided and everything else.
It's pretty messed up. I have two other things I did not like about the book, or I question. For such a saga, they never talked about the middle years. I mean, they went in depth in the beginning of the marriage, and then at the end. But I mean, were they happy? I mean, they did survive for 30-something years, relatively upper middle class, and there's no mention of that.
Dickie says a little bit how much he loved being a father of when they were young, how he just intensely enjoyed seeing the kids like observe new things, or like, oh, this is life. But then,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that's maybe 3 or 4 years.
It was good while they had money and before the girl entered adolescence and before he had a midlife crisis. So
Yeah.
then it all went to hell.
Yeah, I think so. And the other thing that's absent is religion. There's no religion in this.
Well, that was my other question. The Aunt Rose with her superstition.
Yeah.
For a people who were so steeped in cynicism and gloom and doom and negativity, they still have these funny little superstitious things in the form of Aunt Rose. But that never went anywhere either.
No, it didn't, except that it was an escape for Imelda. And, and that name, I mean, I can't think of anybody except Imelda Marcos also. I found that distracting throughout.
Yeah.
I thought that the fortune teller aunt just showed how isolated and like ignorant her family was. Like, because even,
Well, that's right. It was Imelda's family, wasn't it?
Yeah, even if you don't go to school but you go to church, that at least is exposure to some kind of literacy. Or here, this is writing. This is from the past. Other people from before you who were smart enough to think about it and write it down. This is worth writing down. But if you have like, I guess that means she has not even that, where we're literally just like, well, we got these flower petals and I got this insect, and you put them together. That means tomorrow you'll have a good baby or something.
Yeah.
So it was like she had maybe her family wasn't even let. Well, they were bad people, so I guess they can't go to church. They don't really belong there. But Dickie,
they're just sort of savages. It's just they're
country folk.
They were just there. I mean, I could believe. So 2 incidents that occurred in the book where PJ gets beat up by a older kid, bigger kid, who said his mother was cheated by his father at the garage. And I mean, he gets beat up. So where does that happen? Does that happen? And then this, when in her own home, Imelda's there, and this gang of brothers, the Finley brothers, come in, and they are on the verge of raping her because her own brothers had stolen 1,000 pounds from these guys. It's savage. It's brutal savagery. And I guess what he's saying is, you have to stop the cycle somewhere in the generations. You have to stop it. And I was shocking. I found her whole home situation and everything utterly shocking and unbearable.
Here's my second burning question. Who was Cass's father?
Dickie.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I think Imelda stayed a virgin. She,
Imelda was raped
I don't
by
think she
her.
stayed
Imelda was raped during the mourning period by Dickie's father.
What? Oh,
I don't know. I mean, I'll have to go back and find that passage. She went to live with them after Frank died. And she was in mourning, and Frank's father was in mourning, and they were both in grief. And there's one page where she would wander into the kitchen because she couldn't sleep. And she said, the book said, her memory said that he raped her repeatedly during that week that she was living there.
Huh, I don't remember that.
No, I don't know. Maybe
I don't remember that either. I
thought
remember her sleeping in Frank's bed in her grief.
Yes.
And then Dickie came in and lay down with her, and then like one thing led to another.
Yeah. She never had sex with Frank, right?
I don't think
she never
so.
had intercourse. But I believe
so.
that I was under the impression that Frank's father had raped her in his grief.
Oh,
there was in the future that there was a strange warmth that Maurice had, like, oh, I always had a sweet spot for you, or something like that. And she was like, she had wanted him to come save us, help us, but when he says this kind of very friendly, like, oh, like, yeah, you are always a whatever, and she's like,
It's kind of creepy.
she says a very short comment back, like, yeah, right, or something like that. Uh, when she had looking forward to Maurice to come back for so long.
Yeah, I'm going to go and look that up because that I drew that conclusion early on, and I don't know if it was just a dream sequence or I assumed it really happened.
Well, I know that. Well, I know that Imelda had to live her life and her relationships with the men in her life in a flirtatious way, and she had to manipulate her father to keep him calm, and she knew she had to flirt with Maurice or Morris, but I don't remember that at all. I do remember them sort of falling into bed together in their sadness, and that Dickie was more or less happy with that. Yeah, that's fine. However it comes about, that's fine.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was
That could be
content.
because, yeah, Imelda's parts had no periods, no question marks, no commas, like nothing. So, like, even
Well,
I
I
was
think
like,
that's the chaos in her brain, right?
yeah, I guess
When, Joe? What do
in
you mean she had
in
no?
in the chapters that were Imelda, there's no punctuation. There's just capital letters to help you
Oh.
know this is a beginning of a sentence. That's the ending there.
Oh, so the punctuation changed from chapter to chapter?
It was most noticeable for Imelda. There was nothing. There was just
Oh,
like absolutely
interesting.
nothing. So, I
Okay,
was
so that was
getting,
like a device, I guess.
It probably was a
fatigued.
device to indicate her total lack of education, because at the time that Dickie is trying, she writes a letter, I guess, I don't know to whom, but he said she could barely write.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
Uh, yeah. So I was getting fatigued
So they were
during
shanty
her.
Irish then, right? As opposed to lace curtain Irish.
Ah,
They were from the country. They were country folk.
yep. So yeah, but then you got, yeah, Frank. Lots of time spent on him. He's like a local hero. You keep building him up. He's just super good at soccer, a really epic soccer game scene, and he's just everybody loves him. But he wants to not just be a soccer player. He wishes he could be he wishes he could be as clever, as smart as Dickie. He wants to be known for having good ideas, or not just for athletics.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dickie and Frank have kind of a strange hostility towards each other that neither of them know about. And yeah, Dickie meets Imelda. They start dating, and
Frank meets Imelda.
oh yeah, Frank meets Imelda, and then
And she's blown away, right? Because he cast his eyes on her, and she,
Well, he's the football,
yeah,
he's the
exactly.
he's the quarterback, right? Or,
Yeah,
the equating to the
yeah,
United
he's
States.
the
yeah.
scoring guy. And so
But he blows
everybody
that
loves
final
him.
game. He blows the
Yeah.
final game.
Yeah, he sabotages himself. He's just like, everybody wants it. I can't get out of it. I'm just gonna passively drink myself into, into failure.
Mm-hmm.
I can't actively exit this. I'll just passively sabotage myself, and everyone is heartbroken. But especially Imelda's father, like, loves him or
Yeah,
something, and you're kind of like,
that was
okay, well,
weird.
you're like, that's good, I guess. He charms even this mafia guy. But then we this is going much farther ahead, but Frank reveals that, like, oh, the dad wants me to marry her. I got to get out of town. This is crazy. He's gonna kill me. And I was like, wait, what? And so that was a sudden turn for Frank, where you sympathize with Frank. Did he? I thought, did he kill himself in a car accident? Because I don't know,
The speeding, right? Oh no, he was in the middle of a field and the car caught fire.
I thought he crashed into a tree or
I
something.
don't remember how he died. I think car was involved, but the thing is that Dickie came back from Trinity saying he was hit by a car, but really what it was this brutal rape that he experienced from this cop in, that he picked
Right.
up in this pub. So I'm not sure how. I can't remember how.
I assumed he was on drugs and it was reckless driving. He ended up in the middle of a cornfield, didn't he? And wasn't he in the forest? But it was fire. The car caught fire, I thought.
Yeah,
Oh, it
he was
did.
in a car accident, and he had, I don't know, he was also complicated. He wanted
Yeah.
things. He kind of like, yeah, you said about Imelda. He wanted to do things, but he was so entangled in this identity of ability and sports, and then he had this sudden the father said, you better marry her or else, and he didn't want to get married. It said, I'm only 19, and that point really said, oh, this is just like a kid,
Yeah.
like 1 year older than Cassandra. So that sympathy for Cassandra kind of applies now to Frank. I'm like, oh, and their suicide is like thrown around, so maybe he just like did it.
Yeah.
He
Well, at the
possibly, but it seems to me that the pattern that happens in this book is they finally get some clarity. This is what I have to do. I'm going to hook up with this genius friend of mine, and we're going to get a startup, and then I'll come and get Imelda and take her away from all this. And then, he has this accident. I think there's a lot of accidents in this book, and there's very little willful action. There's very little agency, what they call agency in literature in this book that I found. Things happened to these.
Yeah, good point. They're all just sort of miserable
stuck in the
victims of
mud.
Yep.
Well, at the very end, then Imelda finally said, Frank wasn't so great. Frank would never do that. Dickie would, was good, and Frankie was not. First time in the book that I can recall that she put him down.
Yeah. Well,
And
he was
admitted
a kid.
she was
He was
better off.
19, and now she's a mature woman, so she can look back and see that. And it's just all these, not even hardly good intentions, just there. It's more like there are, rather than good intentions, it's more like there are expectations out there, and branding or that is imposed, and then they just kind of fight it a little bit, but they're all stuck in the mud or stuck in a plastic bag, or it's just it was
Keeping up with the Kardashians,
oh God.
who have absolutely no redeeming qualities whatsoever, but they're stuck in this cycle.
Yeah, like the push and pull of local appreciation is just so hard to resist. Like I was telling someone recently, someone asked me, I used to work at this bank and has a good job, good career. And I remember I was telling, it was so difficult because everybody was like jealous everyone was like, oh, what are you thinking? Like, oh, if I could do that, how are you? And I was like, I want to get out of here. And yeah, that took like a year of just constant, oh, I'm here because everybody else likes it so much. So why don't I like it? And yeah, it's really, it's crazy to finally exit that type of
Yeah, so you can totally appreciate both Frank and Dickie's positions because you fulfilled expectations, and it was expectations. It wasn't your own driving, right? It was expectations that were imposed on you.
I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. Yeah.
You had to have the courage to break away from that. And my sense is that all of them found this courage, but the courage either was, forestalled. They were either there was an accident and they crashed into a tree. That's how however I can remember it, or they accidentally shot their children, even though they're trying to fix the situation. There's just so full of missteps. It was just, and everything was just so. Also, these are big ideas, climate change and financial security and floods. These are big, epic, biblical things, and their lives are so trivial.
Yeah. When I was reading it in my book club none of them liked it because they didn't like the people. And I thought it kind of reminds me of opera, you know, I was focusing on the character, the writing, the way he, took a deep dive into each of their characters. But the plot, no. The plot, no. And the ending, no. But I appreciated it for, like with the opera, you appreciate the voices.
Mm-hmm.
Carol went to the opera, and it was Madame Butterfly, and we got out at the intermission. And she goes, "Oh, just hate it, a male chauvinist." I said, "Don't think of the plot; just focus on the voices. That's what we're here for."
Yeah, yeah.
So it was just like a vehicle for, because all their characters resonated with me one way or another. I mean, this is what people do.
Yeah, they did resonate with. I think they were truly drawn, and I think that they're just not likable.
Yeah, they're not. And that part of it is the Irish, right? I mean, come on, the sarcasm, the gloom and the doom and the lack of affection, and everyone is just isolated in their own little orbit, and they're not getting any support from each other. It's just dog eat dog. It has to be because of the weather. It's so cold up there.
It's that crabs climbing up the side of the bowl.
Yeah.
Right? It's that,
Yeah.
and they get pulled down. Yeah.
It's why they all come to America. You're either dealing with bone-chilling cold or sand. So you just come to America.
Well, I thought the best character was Dickie. So I thought he's the most, he has the biggest go from a nothing character, just a kind of a stupid father, doesn't know anything or isn't interested in anything, to having the like the hardest.
It's his story.
time.
It's his story, really.
And I thought, I live in Japan. I'm like, okay, this is a Japanese guy. Because, that is totally that. You are, you have assets. He's clever. Everybody knows he's clever. He gets to go to university, but he has, the hardest time. He doesn't fit in. He doesn't fit in. And he has to just put up with the decisions you made just decades ago. Like, that was, can't do anything about it now. And like,
And he's fraught with guilt. He's fraught with, I'm doing the wrong thing. I can't, how am I going to get out of this? And
he's not able to be himself,
and it's also seen as like a good thing to just shoulder, just wait until you're dead, I guess.
He can't fake it like the others are doing. Everybody else is faking it. He can't do that.
They are. I did write that. Yeah, I did write that on my notes when I start part 4. So the first part was about Cass. The second part was about Imelda. The third part was about PJ. And then the fourth part, finally, Dickie. But of course, we get a lot of information about him beforehand. But here we go. Part 4 about Dickie. Oh my God. I'm not sure I can stand an entire section about this guy. But he is ultimately extremely sympathetic because he is carrying the weight, doing the dealership, substituting for his brother, who
gave up his life. Yeah,
his father liked best. Also,
for his father, for Imelda,
not allowed
for his
to be himself.
Yeah,
as a homosexual, he's not. He's been supporting his family all this time.
Yeah,
Yeah. He starts out, he goes to university. This is my new chance, my new identity. I'm amongst my peers, and they all just hate him there too. They think he's a weirdo, and they don't like him there. And he's like, oh, what was I?
We haven't talked about his friend,
Willie,
who surfaced again at the end of the book.
Right.
Without naming him, but I can't remember his name.
Willie.
Oh yeah, Willie.
Of course.
He gets it. Well, first he gets into like the best dorm house for the highest scoring, most intelligent. This has a time limit too, 15 minutes. Okay, so that'll be 1 hour. But
okay.
And so that's good. But then he somehow runs into this guy Willie, who charms both of them into this bar, which is exclusive, and he finds out it's a gay bar, and he doesn't even really think he's gay, or I think he doesn't really. I don't know. He hasn't really discovered yet, or I don't know. And then that's where just he meets a
I
guy.
thought that was a little unrealistic. I mean, he wasn't even shocked at the bar. I mean, no, most men wouldn't be caught dead in a bar like that, but
Most
he was a
Americans.
follower.
But I think with the British, did you see, the British boarding school system? It's kind of, it's kind of a rite of passage to do a little experimentation there, and
Oh,
I think that it's not. I think it's much more American to not be caught dead in a bar like
okay.
that and make a
I
big
think
old
you're right
deal of
about
it.
that because
Yeah,
we've got the cowboy macho thing going here.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It could have been
yeah.
also like the outside was blank, like someone, he's like, "What is this?" Like, but inside is totally different. Maybe in that
Mhm.
time, like '90s, or
Mhm.
Well,
so
and there was
like,
something when Cass then goes to Dublin. Also, such a distance between Dublin, the city, and the farmland. It was just sort of, come on, they've all got phones. Why is Dublin such a big bad city? But anyway, when Cass goes to Dublin, somebody says, "Oh yeah," and points out that particular dorm. And I can't remember what it was, but the connection was there between that's where her father had been, but she didn't know it.
Yeah. Even though it's a pit, even though it's
The reputation, yeah.
yeah.
But then this Willie ended up being a social protest leader, right? And a professor, and ends
Politician.
up giving a speech when Cass is there. But they,
Well, I think he ends up being a politician because he
he's
was a
a
debater.
he's a solicitor,
yeah.
which I think is a
But
lawyer, but
the
Yeah.
he
author
becomes a
never identified him as such. They just gave the reader clues onto that
Yeah.
this is this person.
But he was out from the get-go. So he had a certain level of comfort with himself because he was able
Mm-hmm.
to be who he was.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What a
Yeah.
mess.
What a mess. And what struck me also is this, what some of the topics that that the book talks about is the sins of the father, are carried on. And that I thought that was horrible. Also, we didn't talk about PJ and that social media predator that he,
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
that was horrible, and all the idea that he makes his way up to Dublin. You never know how old this kid is. Finds his sister's apartment, and then she says, "Get out of here!" And he's just in Dublin by himself.
He's like 12,
Oh my
13.
god!
Yeah, that was a little bit strange. Where, why is Cassandra in love with this total idiot? Just like and she even says like my roommate
Who?
the
Elaine.
roommate Elaine. She's like,
Yeah.
Oh,
she was saying, oh, one morning she's pretending to read like a eco news while liking, I don't know, just conflicting.
well, she wants to express her feelings. That's right. She wants to sort of come out to this Elaine, right?
Yeah,
She's in
but
love with her.
it would be like, why?
Yeah.
Why does she like this like vapid, like stupid
I know.
person?
Well,
that
because
was
she's the cute girl. She's
And then Elaine switches on her, right? One minute she's snubbing her, and then the next minute
she's shown to be really shallow and
yeah.
They're all posers. They're all pretending to be something they're not. And I have a problem with that as well. And also ultimately the triviality of all of their mistakes. And I know that there's this term called doom loop. And this is what I don't know if it fits, but this phrase came to mind as I was reading this book. It is a doom loop, a poisoned well.
I thought also, going back to that, that survivalist, I thought about how that's Dickie's downfall because, like, when you can't comprehend what's happening or why your life is going wrong or your job is gone, my father worked there, my grandfather worked there, then you kind of, your fear just takes over, but you do have some reason and rationality. So you start thrusting it on things like, okay, we gotta get chickens. Okay, so if I grow 10 beans, that'll yield 50 beans. Okay, I gotta get solar panels. So, but really the fear is you've abandoned, the future of civilization, but you're still applying researched topics into like farming and knife usage or squirrel control. So that was like Dickie's like his whole identity was smart, academic, and now he's like, I'm consumed by fear. I'm gonna go this way. Yeah, tell me more.
It doesn't really
that.
say how he got hooked up with a survivalist or how he even got into it. Just all of a sudden he was digging.
Yeah, this guy did some work on the house, I think, and all of them are led astray by someone in their lives. So the idea of bad companions. I mean, a lot of the Catholic thing comes up with like bad companions and be careful who you let influence you. That the witch influencing Imelda and this predator on social media with poor little PJ and the survivalist and Elaine. So they all have this friend that leads them down the wrong path. And
don't you feel like Weibert the reader was PJ? Because he's just like scratching his head, trying to figure out this world.
Oh my God.
Who are these people?
Yeah, maybe.
Because you're normal till you're about 12, I guess. And then it was just like, what the hell? He doesn't know. He's trying to figure it out.
Pieces. It gets pieces. And that's what we got, pieces.
Yeah. And then we get shot at the end.
Yeah. That was
It was still good.
Yeah.
It was good, Buck.
I want to read his other ones. But
while I was reading it, I thought, I never read James Joyce, but maybe this is what James Joyce is like.
Oh my God. I think if you read Angela's Ashes, I'm done.
The Irish.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Also, this was that Shuggie Bain, another horrible.
Oh yeah, that
family.
Was Scottish, but same thing. Horrible, horrible.
What?
Shuggie Bain,
We
another
read a
book that we read early on.
Oh.
And I wanted to read it because it was Scottish, I think, and it was horrible.
That was also Booker Award winner, Booker Prize.
Oh my God.
I've never heard of that. I have to tell you one little tidbit in the book because I listened to it. Somebody was using the word ruined instead of ruined. Mm-hmm. They say ruined. Now it's ruined. And I had to think of my friend Joan Gallagher and her husband Jack, both Irish. And Joan would say ruined. The kids ruined things. Or you ruined this, play bridge, you ruined it. And her husband, who was also Irish and critical, it's not ruined, it's ruined. You always say ruined, it's ruined. So I had to text Joan and say, you were right, it's ruined. Because your mother said it that way and her mother said it that way.
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what else this guy has written, but...
what about the title? I mean, what the hell's up with
Yeah,
that?
what about the title?
Well, the whole
we
bee
only have
sting.
7
Yeah, that's
minutes
right.
left.
That's right.
Well, the title refers to the fact that Imelda got a bee sting in and around her eye, so her eye was all swollen on the day of her wedding. So she kept her veil down, and no pictures were allowed. So what occurred to me is, did the marriage really happen?
No, what happened? She didn't get a bee sting.
Yeah, it was no bee sting.
Her father beat her up. Her father beat her on the way to the wedding.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, her
which
father.
is just atrocious.
Yeah. Yeah, who just.
Why did he beat her? Oh, because she was pregnant? Or
He said, I'm going to walk you down the aisle. So he gets her in the car, then says like.
Was it her father or his father?
It was her father. He
Okay.
said, you can't marry this, Frank's body's not even cold yet. Why are you doing this? I'm going to take you away to England. We got to get out of here. And she lets out, well, I'm pregnant, as just a middle finger right to him, and then he just like punches her, I think, in the
because he loved Frankie so much.
I guess, yeah.
So what does this title mean? Why is the whole book called The Bee Sting? Are they all cursed? Are they all?
It's not what
beat
it
up?
seems. It's not what it seems.
I guess it's kind of the light, the lighter. The little lie you give to cover the enormous trouble that's underneath, maybe, that we throw around to say like, oh, I just got I got a headache. Oh, actually, I'm dying of brain cancer.
Or, life is not what it seems. If you dig deeper, you'll see there's much more under that veil.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, the veil covers the fake lie, which is actually something else.
But if you go back and back and back and back, it's like, oh, okay. That's what's happening
and
there.
Still we don't know. So
we don't know how it. Yeah,
we don't know what happens to them. We don't know what happened to the first suicide family. So in the end, you just have to kind of
the first
stay
suicide.
light.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but it actually reads like a TV series. But I forget I even said that.
But it does. It's
But
like
it's kind of
a,
you don't know where
isn't it
each
like
episode's going to
Succession,
go.
sort of, or something like that? That's what I felt, because
Yeah.
it's multi-generational, and they're all fighting to sort of escape from the demands and expectations of their family and culture. And I
Yeah.
found it really depressing, and I was glad to finish it.
It was a big
Glad to
book.
see the back of it.
And it was a big book. I didn't know how big it was because I mostly, it was all digital. But somebody had the hardback book, and it's like this thick.
Yeah, really. Oh God. Yeah, I read it on Kindle as well.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, we have 4 minutes left. Any final comments on the book?
I liked it. I wanna go to Ireland. I wanna be more Irish. I feel like I
No,
don't know,
don't do that. You're Irish enough.
yeah, Japan and Ireland there's something there. There's something,
Island mentality.
yeah, some kind of root of tradition and appearance and
But not bitchy women. Don't tell me the Japanese
Yes.
have bitchy women like the Irish do.
Not like the Irish. No. No.
Well, thank you for
No.
inviting me. I'll get that in right now. Thank you
Oh
very
my
much.
God, what a travail. And Joe, do
yeah.
you have a book for next time?
oh, I don't. I didn't think of that.
Okay. That's okay. Then we'll think of that later.
All
Everything
right.
else okay?
Well, any other closing final thoughts? I'll stop the recording.
How's everything
Glad
in
to be
Japan?
done with Paul Murray.
Oh. All right, well, we'll sign off. I'll stop the recording and then we'll go for a little bit longer, but we'll catch you
Okay.
next time on the Book Pod.
The Book Pod. Thank you for being our special guest, Margie.
Thank you.
Fare thee well, my own true love. Farewell for a while, I'm going away, but I'll be back if I go 10,000 miles.